Hi, Rob Runacres from the Renaissance Sword Club, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about that great weapon of convenience, the cape. So the sources I look at are Renaissance, of course, but it's used beforehand and it's used afterwards. So let's start off by looking at what material you should use for your cape. I recommend something like this, which is a rough linen. You can get a heavy cotton. You can use something canvas if you want to, or leather, but that's going to be heavy. So is a lot of the wool ones you get. Don't spend an awful lot of money because you're going to use it a lot and it will get broken and torn. I also recommend not necessarily getting a cloak that's made per se. You might want a piece of material, perhaps tapered. Really you want something that, if you're going to use this form of style, so using a long cape style, you want something that's probably about 1.5 times your shoulder width and coming down from your neck to your ankles. That's absolutely perfect. So let's carry on now and look at how you would hold the cape. So if you take one edge of the cape, one side, and just drape it down a little bit on the inside, I've got a hood here which is very convenient, and then have the largest part hanging over to the outside. And then if you want, you can flick it around like so, which is very dramatic, or you can just put your hand beneath and just gently put it over. And then you want to pull it tight. Try and have a little bit more material around the hand area because that's going to get sniped. Also recommend you use a thick glove like a red dragon or maybe a long sword glove, and perhaps something for the forearm. Let's move on now onto that safety aspect. You need to be very careful with the partner who you're going to fence with. Percussive force is your biggest danger here. You are not protected even if you have it wrapped around several times. Big cut to the arm is going to hurt you a lot. Also your hand will get sniped. So we'll come on to how you should hold that in a minute, but don't hold out your hand like so, otherwise you'll take some damage. But most of all, it's down to the partner who you're fencing with, and you should always fence with care. So let's look at holding the cape. Big problem you're going to have with a complex sword is quillions. And if you make a mistake, you will find that your sword will get wrapped up, particularly when you want to do a big thrust or something like that. You'll get caught in the cape. So a good way to hold it is to have your hand behind. You notice my cape is getting a little bit unwound there. You'll find yourself constantly rewinding the cape. Now hold it behind the guard. If you wish to advance the cape, use it like so, so it's going beyond the guard. And you're basically covering your hand with the point like so. You can slightly angle it here over the top, but you should try and avoid the Count Dracula look by going through it, because you'll get stabbed straight through. For parrying, you can parry to the inside like so, just by pushing out. What you need to be doing is extending the arm and pushing out slightly. Don't make big waves. It looks very dramatic, but it's going to open you up and it's going to tire you out. You can actually parry over the sword as well by bending your elbow up and just patting with the hand, like so. Now it might not seem that the cape is doing an awful lot, but what it's helping doing is it's covering a massive area underneath. It's very useful if you're on the left foot. And actually Fabris likes this. He doesn't like the dagger forward, but he likes having the cape forward because it can protect the leg and the body underneath. And it absorbs the impact as it's coming in. What you shouldn't do though is rest it against the leg, because of course that's going to hurt, so you're going to get cut. But if you have it forwards and you slip the leg or void the body, that's going to absorb some of the impact of the cuts there. But remember, cuts to the arm, where it's tight against you, are going to hurt. Okay, just to finish off, let's look at some of the more dramatic things that you can do with the cape. You can swirl it if you want to, but if you're going to swirl it, you're going to end up hitting yourself and obscuring your vision. Try not to do that. What you can do, however, is flick, like so, and scatter grass at people as well, if you just cut it. But you can flick at the face. The problem when you're actually sparring with this, though, of course, is people who've got masks, so they're not going to fall for that. Some people suggest you should trail it and get people to stand on it and perhaps trip them up. It's unlikely they're going to fall for that. Slightly more seriously, it could be dangerous, of course, if someone falls on their back with this. One thing you are going to have to do is constantly rewind the cape, and it's a pain. Now generally if you're sparring and your opponent starts to rewind the cape, that is a good time to hit them. However, again, try and do it with some courtesy. Another thing you can do is when it does unwind, when you've been fighting, and it's on the floor like so, is you can fight around the cape, like so. Use it as an obstacle for the opponent. Again, with courtesy. And then lastly, of course, we have the cape throws. Now, cape throws are a lot of fun. Best way I've been shown to do it is actually with a push. So rather like a shot putter. Don't throw it like so, because if you throw it like so, it's going to go off at an odd angle. But if you actually pass as you push it forwards, that will be really helpful. So if I just throw this out, it'll probably go off camera, is I can push like so, and then if it covers up the sword hand or slightly distracts the opponent, you can follow that up with a thrust or a lunge. Again, another safety importance, and you may feel I'm belaboring this a bit, if it does cover the face, don't run in and hit the opponent. It's not fair. They're not going to be ready to receive it. And a lot of people go in too hard and fast on this. Similarly, I've seen people who've been covered with a cape just throwing their arm out like so, and other people almost run in on it. So again, like all fencing, just take a little bit of care. Now, the last thing I'm going to demonstrate is pushing with the sword. This takes practice. There's been some discussion on this on the internet. The idea of this is that essentially you put your sword behind it and you push out with the sword and it flies open and covers your opponents, and then you can thrust them. It's very, very dramatic. It takes a bit of practice. Some people have said that it would never work because a sharp point would go through. It won't if you push with the sword. If you hold and stab with the sword, then of course your point would go through if it was sharp. But you would hold it open, and essentially what you do is you would hold it like this. Hopefully that your opponent would not see the sword point. You go like that, and then you simply lunge out like so. I'll have to do this several times, I think. Like so. So to finish off, there's lots of fun and games you can play with this. I do recommend you have a look at the Fabris manual. It's not really a form I follow, but it is brilliant fun. One of the main reasons for me is because the cape seems to grow in the pictures as it goes through. So it starts off as a normal cape like this, and then by the end of it, it's the size of a small tent covering both fences. I love this. I love the fact that there's a little bit of artistic largesse going on there. There are lots of different techniques you could do this. Of course, the cape comes in all sorts of different shapes and forms. Because it's so pliable, malleable, and has a temperament of its own, it will act in all sorts of ways. So have a lot of fun with it. Fence safely and enjoy. Cheers.